So hello everybody, my name is Nicholas Pol with another episode of Around the Pol. Here I have.
Jessie Rodriguez from PMI.
And tell us, Jesse, how did we get to know each other?
Oh man, so Alex introduced us. You guys were at my office. We did a presentation as far as what we're trying to do with AI for our business and our businesses, and that's what we're here today to talk about.
So I know in a previous episode we had Hannah all over, right? She's also a PMI.
Yep.
So PMI is a group. PMI is a business with local branches, right? And
Correct.
This is another local branch?
Correct, yeah. So PMI stands for Property Management Inc. We're a nationwide franchise, and we specialize in what they call the pillars of property management, which is long-term rental, short-term rental, HOA, commercial, and multifamily. Okay, so those are the things that we specialize in. Our franchise is locally operated. We specialize in long-term rental and short-term rentals. Those are our specialties.
And how can I, as a realtor, work with someone like you or your company?
Well, all our relationships are symbiotic, right? So we help agents help their clients, especially investors, right, find properties that would cash flow, whether it be on the short-term rental or long-term rental side. So, for example, if you're an agent, you come to me and say, "Hey, Jess, here's a list of properties. Which one do you think is the best one that I can show my client?" Okay, I'll run analysis. Tell you, hey, we'll do cash flow analysis. We'll do cash-on-cash return analysis. Or short-term, we'll do projections. Long-term, short-term, because we have all that data already, and most of it's a couple of it would take an agent, hours to do that. As for me, it's already a couple clicks of a button. I can send you a report. We could even, if you want, custom tailor it, brand it, and send it over.
So you provide the agent with the information needed for the customer to sign on the dotted line, right?
Correct, because the first question the investor is going to ask, whether they're if they're a novice investor, is like, hey, how much is the rent for, right? Because they're going to take that and they're going to be, okay, my rent is this, and then they'll come up with whatever number in their head they think is good for them. But we can go we can do that too. We can kind of leave it at that, or we can go to a really smart investor or a really experienced investor that says, hey, what are my numbers on this? What's my ROI? What's my cash on cash return? What exactly is it that what's a 10-year projection, a 5-year projection, with assumptions of depreciation, of appreciation, and inflation baked in, and we can run all those analysis for them as well.
Okay, and knowing that Florida's market is 50% foreign, do you work with a lot of foreign investors?
Yep,
or is it primarily residents here?
No, I mean there is a lot of foreign investors, obviously. And we classify foreign as not only just from another country, but also from another state, right? So there is always a lot of interest in Florida because of our weather and our tax situation.
Right.
So yeah, we talk about everything with everybody, and most of that will come in whatever language they prefer, and which obviously we use AI to help out in that as well.
So I always love to know what the person does, but what's almost as important or even more important is the person behind the work. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. Do you have kids or?
Yeah, I have 2 little ones, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old.
So that's kind of your engine, that's your why.
Yeah, that's the why,
Where'd you study?
Well, I grew up in Hialeah, Miami Lakes, partially in Miami-Dade College, partially FIU.
Okay.
And that's kind of where it began, but it had nothing to do with anything I had now. I studied.
That's how it usually goes. Right?
Yeah, I started in nutrition, and that midway between my junior and senior year, I started working at a mortgage company.
But it kind of connects, right? Nutrition is like the data points you need to support your your health.
Yeah.
While what you do now is more the data points to support an investment.
Right, but then I ran into a class called organic chemistry.
Okay.
And I was like, this might not be for me. So that's when I started working that summer at a mortgage company, and from there
At what age?
I think I was around 21.
So fresh.
Yeah, fresh. I was really just basically a marketing telemarketer, outbound sales guy, and part time, But then I was actually was really good at it because I was.
You got your feet wet.
Yeah, and I was doing more part time than a lot of the full time guys were doing. So, and from then on, I went to work at a couple big companies and survived, the 2007 2008 crash, and have continued to work in the financing field and now the property management.
Speaking of a crash, a lot of economic analysts and experts feel that we might be heading towards one. Do you feel like that, or is it more fear mongering than anything?
I think there's always a lot of fear mongering because as far as the clickbait goes, right? Fear, rage, all that stuff kind of pushes
the algorithm.
Yeah.
The policies that led to the '08 crash, and they kind of fixed it back then, right? So
right.
why would the same type of crash happen now? There were certain regulations in place with the '08 crash that they fixed back then, so the same type of crash wouldn't have happened or will happen in the future.
It was good, but when you introduce things that are, once in a lifetime events, it kind of throws everything off. And I think post 2020 COVID, what a lot of the world's countries and banks, world banks, central banks did to fight what they perceived at the moment was a threat. I don't think where we're at now is helped a lot. And a lot of it has to do with volatility, rapid change. I think as an economy, we're very, very good at, in the world economy, they're very good at changes, at assuming gradual changes. But when something hits the system like a big shock wave, it's very difficult to recover from, and it takes years. So what's going on now is stuff we're still paying for because of what these central banks did during COVID.
Oh, during COVID.
Correct.
Like what?
Well, the first thing would have been, what's called the quantitative easing. A lot of the money printing that they did during that time to keep the economies going. The shutdowns didn't help. They were basically paying people to stay home and not produce, and so when that was unleashed, and then the demand spiked after everybody came back to work. It created the issue of the inflation that we have now, where now you went from 0 rates and lowest rates in 50 years in the beginning of 2022 to the highest rates in 50 years by the end of 2022. And that kind of volatility now has kind of been with us for the last 3 or 4 years, where you add in now, wars has thrown everything off for a mark. But as far as what I think, the economy, it's resilient enough. There's enough people working. But now we've got some disruptors that are coming our way too, in the way of AI. And you can see it too with customers that regional. It depends on where, but there are certain areas where the cost of living is keeping people on the fence from making maker decisions.
And there's stories out there that, these major companies are laying off thousands of employees, and they label it as like AI automation casualties. But in reality, what's really happening is that these are casualties from excess hiring from after the pandemic.
Yeah,
and
it could be.
After that, after these layoffs occur, the stock goes up, which I just feel like it's a total horrible situation.
Right. So as a business owner, right, so, we have revenue that comes in, right? And then we have expenses, and then we have profit at the end, right? So the ways you affect the profit is you go get more revenue or you cut expenses, right? So, when they lay off people, it increases your profit because you laid off a bunch of people, right? So, those are just the basic stuff. But when the head of Anthropic, which is Claude's
The
AI
good
service.
AI company.
Yeah, supposedly good AI. That means everybody's good until they're not good, right? But he literally came out and said a few days ago that 50% of all tech jobs will be gone within the next 2 to 5 years.
And do you believe him?
I don't know if I believe it 100%, but I do believe there's a lot of it. I mean,
Because a lot of these firings, what ends up happening is that they rehire.
right, correct. That happens too, but there has to be a skill transition, right? So, I think that if you're a regular person at a regular job and you have no AI skills or no way to increase those skills, I think
You're getting axed.
it might hurt you more than the person that has that same position that knows exactly.
So it's like when the internet came, a lot of people were feared for their jobs.
Yep.
But it wasn't those who adapted to it that lost their jobs. It was more about those who kind of stayed to what comfortable.
It's going to be very humbling for a lot of sectors, because when you look at and you go to offices and you go to all these places, what is it that we're really seeing, right? What we see people sitting in front of a computer, typing and using a mouse and getting from what's in here out there that way. And I think for a lot of the jobs that are in front of a computer, we're very close to just not having that person sit on the computer and having the computer do the work on its own,
Even with all these, hallucinations that ChatGPT have reported, like they just make up things. Like,
yeah.
So like if you're in a law firm and you're settling a case, and all of a sudden,
Yeah, there's that's what's called drift. When you first set a task and you set it and you let it automate, right? There's over time that task keeps repeating and try to quote unquote improve itself. You do get some drift as far as from what you originally asked it to do to what it's currently doing. But there's a lot of tools and ways to practically make it almost zero. It's never going to be zero.
So what you would tell people at home is just focus on things you do in the real world rather than things you could do on the computer?
No, what I would tell you is take whatever job you do, right, and use AI to double the output.
So AI wouldn't take your job completely.
Right. So correct. And honestly,
You don't foresee a scenario in which that happens ever.
Oh, I do. I mean, there's most entry-level jobs are in trouble, obviously, just because of that. But that's just me. I see opportunity, right? So like,
AI.
yeah, I do. And if you're anybody that is thinking about that type of stuff in your head, like when I lose my job, think of a way to get ahead of it, right? Yeah, to get ahead of it, you have to, like for example, right? Back then there used to be, you used to apply to a job and they used to ask you how many words can you type a minute, and you had a typewriter in front of you. And the first people that learned how to use, word processor, those were the people that were being hired ahead of the people who were using the typewriters.
Right.
So it's same concept.
Is AI a net good? Is AI a net good? You think we should progress with this stuff?
Whether it's a net good or not, progression is happening. It's going to happen.
You don't think policymakers can put a moratorium on AI?
I think if you do,
if you look at Europe,
right,
it's a lot more regulated than the United States.
Right. So correct. But when you do that, there's always somebody behind you pushing it to the next level, right? So there's just if the more you stop it, the more somebody else will push it and not stop it. And then once they get ahead of you, in the AI world, like once someone's ahead of you, they're gonna stay ahead of you no matter what you do.
Are you saying that we should always stay ahead of China? That's what you think?
We have to.
You think so?
I do think so, yes.
But they've already kind of implemented AI more in every day than even here already. They might not be advanced in terms of chips, but in terms of implementation, I believe they are, aren't they?
Yes, but their models, which are the frontier models, which are the models like what OpenAI has, Anthropic, they're still behind.
They're still behind. And sorry to cut you off. It's just that a lot of reports say that when China's falling behind on something, they don't create new things. They kind of try to copy others.
Correct.
So then, if we stop, You know, you don't
they're
wanna
not
try-
going to stop,
But they won't have anything to copy.
but they're smart enough to continue it.
Okay, so let me ask you this: if we have to beat China, and then so that means that regulation needs to be quelled.
We can go to an example, like for example, EV cars, right? So we have 100% tariff in the United States where you can't bring in any EV
You have
car
a
from
Tesla,
China.
right?
Yes, I do. I do. So you can't bring in a car from China because they already their brand
It's better.
is better, you know. And
Isn't that against the free market?
no, I think yeah, it is, you know, and I'm sure it's one of those things where that's another example of policy stopping
Gone wrong or something.
stopping what innovation could help. Now, there's have to be safeguards. Yeah, I do believe, you know, like I don't think they should, you know, determine whether somebody lives or dies on a battlefield, you know, in war. I don't think AI should make that decision ever.
A human in the loop process.
Yeah, and the best systems always work with a human in the loop when it comes to AI. But like for example, that type of safeguard, I would never let an AI make that decision on a battlefield, in an airplane. Even though there's a lot of autopilot tech now, whether life and death situations should not be made usually by a computer. You know.
And how about all these, you know, horror stories that you hear about, you know, data centers sucking all up the natural resources of the.
Well, that is happening. These chips that run are very power hungry, and when you run a lot of power, you also need a lot of cooling. And when you need a lot of cooling, you need a lot of water.
And like the utilities of any given area are.
Correct. But I think and a lot of these companies are doing is that they're creating their own utilities, you know, to help that.
But the issue with that is when the energy gets shut down, and you know the companies have their own utilities to keep them going, the local people might not be so pleased about having a data center with light when they don't have light themselves.
Well, that's why they're building their own separate utility structure.
Yeah, but it's going to be separate from the local.
Right.
So this might be working during an energy shutdown while the local isn't.
Right, but the local has a completely different like grid, right? So it's run on whatever grid, you know, like for example FPL, right? FPL has their own stuff. Let's say, you know, Microsoft wanted to build their own utility and data center. They would build their own, you know, utility here, which would not, or they would try to limit the access to the regular grid. Now, do I believe that that's the most efficient way to do it? Probably not. There have been now a lot of, you know, talk about building it in space, right? So you remove the cost of cooling, and then you have 24-hour solar power day and night that can keep these things running.
You think that's feasible?
As of right now, I don't know. I don't know enough about that space, but it looks, I mean, it sounds good, you know, but is it feasible? I don't know. We would have to get a lot of stuff out into space that we.
So is there any AI company that you would think is doing AI better than the others?
Right now, Anthropic is the leader, and it wasn't the leader, I want to say 6 months ago. And the reason for it is it's adapting and building its tools that are more friendly for business and small businesses, right? So it gives you, as a small business, it gives you a lot of the advantages that a large corporation would have, and easier.
Which one do you use? Or do you use
we use Claude. For example, I used Claude and to build my mortgage company's application infrastructure, and now I used Claude as the brain to that infrastructure, so that my processors and loan officers have all the data and tools that they need to just interact and work on a daily basis. And it's so far we've just started implementing it, and it's really, really good. It's a lot better humans at a lot of things. You know, the only thing it's not better than is obviously face-to-face talking on the phone, building relationships. That part right there is not where, and I don't think it'll ever will be, right? So I think that humans will always play the role of talking, should play the role of talking to other humans, but through text and email, it's very hard to tell the difference now. But talking on the phone, face to face, yes. And in our real estate business, I think that it will automate a lot, but the relationship building is still key.
What's to separate brokerages for a client other than face-to-face connection and trust?
Yeah, that is true. That is true, and that's how you compete with the big aggregators, the Zillows, the Redfins. You have to have that, because most of the data already in the real estate field is self-service, right? You can go on Zillow and find whatever property, click a button, and you'll have an agent show up at the house and show it to you. But is that the right buy? Is there anything better? Or you need to be. Sometimes you want an expert opinion.
Exactly.
And that's where experts can use AI to be better experts. But a lot of the time, a lot of the people will. Now, there's always going to be a small group or a group that don't care for human interaction and just want transactionals, right? So you have that. But for the most part, buying a house
it's sentimental.
is a very, it's a very face-to-face process. So when it comes to that piece, as an agent, that part you'll never lose, but you will be able to offload a lot of your, busy work.
Would that increase output
It
with
should.
the same amount of hours worked?
Correct.
Or would it decrease the amount of hours worked?
Well, it really depends on you as the person, right? So,
I mean, there's an unlimited.
There's levels to it. Yeah, there's levels to it. If you want to have a work-life balance and you want time with family, you're going to be able to do that. But if you're also one of these people that are workaholics and want to, keep it going and double your output that way, you can totally do
So
the
there's
same
an
thing.
unlimited output that one man could do, you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have very soon, if we haven't already, we're going to have the first one human billion-dollar company coming. And that is an incredible feat, right?
The unicorn company as well.
Yeah, it's one person. AI runs most of everything, and that one person and their entire company, it's a billion-dollar company with one human being at the top.
What AI has an issue with really is that it's great at copying things that's already been created, but like you said, like creating new relationships, creating new art, right?
Right.
There's where it's kind of
Right.
It can't identify and solve a solution on its own.
Correct.
As good as a human can. That right? Right. As of right now, or no?
It depends on the field, I guess. I would say
It can identify a new problem, solve it.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the new models, like you read, like there's some new models that haven't been released because they go out and they find security vulnerabilities in.
Like mythos.
You're right. There you go. Talking to experts, there's nothing crazy about mythos, because they believe that a lot of the frontier models can get close to what mythos did, but Anthropic kind of asked it to do something, and so it pointed itself at that, and it found that problem, and so there's problems that we don't even know we probably have that will be used that
So
AI can find.
Aren't we stepping into like a dangerous field when
Absolutely.
we're telling AI to go somewhere and then all of a sudden, because it's not all going to be government and companies controlling AI. It's going to be other sense forces, right? That
Yes.
want to use AI.
The bad guys will always have it too. Yes. So that's where we have to stay ahead and we have to lead as a country in that aspect.
Because I imagine all these vulnerable people who get scammed are going to get scammed tenfold now with AI. And
Yep.
what's going to be the solution to that?
I don't know.
So
There's a lot of people above my pay grade to get paid to think that. But as far as I'm concerned,
like what is a case study for you? What's one time when?
well, I started really simple. We're a small business, so when you're a small business, your resources are limited to, the people that you have and the time that you have in a day, right? So you either make more time, which is hard to do, or you find more people to help you, and which costs more money, which means you have to increase your revenue to cover that cost. We found that our biggest, pain point in the beginning was, our leads were not being followed up on forever, right? So like, for example, hot leads come in, they want to do business right now. Those are always the easiest ones to tackle. But not everybody wants to do business right now. And so there are people that want to do business 2 months from now, 6 months from now, next year. And so there are CRMs, the way that CRMs are built right now, they were built to handle that. But they were built, and they have been built, very template rich, very robotic kind of, and not
Personalized.
right. And they all have every task in a CRM has a beginning and an end date, whereas AI has no end date. You can set it for no end date. So, you can ask it to. You can give it all the leads. You can say, what am I doing wrong here? Where's the leak, right? And that was the leak. And it wasn't that the people that we had following up on leads were bad. It's just that as you start, so like, let's say you start with one lead. You get that one lead, you're awesome with that one lead. But if you get another lead the next day, now you have two. And so you have 100 leads, 50 to 100 leads that come in every month. Over months, now you have hundreds and hundreds of leads that back up. And so, you still have to not sound robotic. You still have to stay in front of them. You still have to see what they're doing, if they're still interested, And so that is where, we created, our first thing was speed to lead bot, where, it becomes just a little touch point here and there randomly. Through text, through email. We can pre-record voicemails, and they could just send it to their voicemail. Just a little thing just to make sure that we're still there and that we're still in front of them. That kind of evolved into like, well, what else can we do with this? What else can we create with this? And then and then it became connected to Facebook and social media, and it kind of tracks how many times they've done this or they've done that on our website. So the data, when we respond to them, it becomes a lot more personalized. And so it's not just, hi, how are you doing? Are you still looking for a home? Do you want to do business with me? Or hi, how are you doing? Do you still need property management help? It's more like, hey, we saw that you were looking at investment properties over here. We have, those are okay, but your returns will probably be better if you look over there. And just little things like that. On the mortgage side, it's been, birthdays, holidays, very, very, personalized stuff that goes out as if it was from us. So, and we moved our entire communication system to the cloud. So, we use RingCentral for communications, and it can read all text messages. It knows what every call is about. And so it builds a story, a personalized story of every single client.
Wow.
And so it always knows.
Now, is that on the CRM itself?
That is on our custom application stuff that we built for our clients. So, and now the next step is, a post-closing type of deal where they have a portal and they can go into and download all their closing documents, know when their insurances expire and when they need new insurance. Plus, it can give them daily rates. They can log in and see, hey, this is your rate. You have a 7%. Rates are now at 6%. And, it may be worth, here's what the numbers look like on a refi. Or it could be, hey, this is your property now. You lived in it for a year. Do you want to buy another one? This is what it could rent out for now, short term and long term. Like give it options. And then the best part is it's branded, right? So the realtor that sends us those referrals is there. And if they do any type of action where like, oh, I might want to do that, it goes right back to the referring agent, so.
And how long did that take to build something like that?
Well, it was just me. So it took me about a month and a half.
So you're the AI guru. You're the AI
For my
guy.
company, yeah, I'm my guy. I am the guy. I am my own guy. Yeah.
So so that's why you're more pro AI than pro regulation on things.
I'm not anti-regulation, but I am more pro AI. And now, as far as the regulation is concerned, there have to be some protections in there, but the protection can't be to save jobs from going away, because that doesn't. Unfortunately, that's always been something that limits.
The internet. I don't think there was when the internet came. I don't think there was threats of, you know, complete annihilation of the labor force, right? Or was there?
I mean,
I think AI.
when was the last time you used a travel agent?
Well, they still exist.
Yeah, they still exist, but I mean, when was the last time you used one?
Right. But I'm saying that AI, the threat is complete annihilation of.
Oh, you mean like
ever?
Right. That's why it can never have it cannot have control over who lives and dies. And honestly,
But if you take work from humans, their purpose, psychiatrists are themselves concerned about this.
Yep, I agree.
But we have to innovate before we think
Correct. Yeah, we have to learn to live with it, because it's already too advanced.
But they say that before we get to it replacing the entire workforce, first we need to get AGI, right? Before that happens.
There's a lot of arguments that they were there already.
That were there already in AGI.
Yeah, because in my opinion, this is my opinion, right? So the actual definition of AGI itself was written a while ago, and it could be an outdated definition, because what we're seeing now we've never seen. So what is to say that what AGI is now is not what it actually is? That's kind of my whole deal. I kind of think it's already happened and we're just behind.
Right. So what would be, what would be the difference between you, someone who uses AI in everyday use, or like your competition who doesn't?
I can get a lot more done in a day than they can.
And does that just help you, or does it help your clients as well?
It helps the clients as well, because we're in a world where you need instant gratification, right? So, you want to press a button and get a result, and human interaction is very seldom like that, right? So if somebody asks me for, hey, I want to know what my payment is on this house. I want to know what it looks like as far as rental data. I want to know what my cash on cash return is. I want to know what it is compared to these other 4 houses that I found online. That's a half a day's job if you're going to do one-on-one. But if I can just press a button and send it to them instantly, and they have that information, and they go, oh, thank you. And then, if you're an agent, you just follow up with, so which one do you want to buy? And they have all the data in front of them, and then, I want that one. And then also, you want to write a contract, you can do it, you can go into Form Simplicity and type everything in one by one, or you can have pre-built templates then already where they tell you the one, you press the button, it's already connected to your DocuSign. You just add their name, phone number. It's already connected to your system. It goes out to them instantly. So
that all exists?
That all exists right now. We're doing it right now. So, I just did in 5 minutes what takes someone 4 hours, 5 hours to do. So,
so that's the difference.
That's the difference. That's the difference. And that's, I think, the best use case for it. I don't think it should face a human where a human should face a human, right? Because I think it causes a lot of angst, because, you can, if it makes a mistake while you're trying to get something out to a client, you can kind of tell like, hey, I don't want that, I want this, I don't want this, I want that. And it can kind of give you what you want. And then once it's finalized, then you can send that to the client,
Another problem I've seen with AI is that, when you put in a question, no matter how stupid the question is, it says, "Oh, what a wonderful, smart question."
Right, and that's a big thing too.
So,
So
like, if AI does eventually take what you say it shouldn't take, and like that, in that first level where a human should always be, and it's like,
correct.
should I take this investment? And it's like, oh, what a wonderful investment. And then it's like, it's actually a bad investor. Will AI make bad investors overconfident by the way it speaks to them?
Oh, 100%, 100%. It'll do it. 50, it'll do it every time. And that's the whole thing about having a novice use AI, right? Than somebody that knows how to use it. So, for example, chat structuring, right? So basically, every single AI that people interact with is either a free version of ChatGPT or Claude, or a very base $20 a month subscription to a ChatGPT or Claude. So what happens is they don't really set those things up properly. So it's just a blank slate. What you should do, and if you notice and you listen to this podcast or anything, the first thing you need to do is go to the settings, and these settings have instructions on how you want it to interact with you. And so you can have it interact with you in a way where you can tell it, always treat anything I'm going to say or that I'm going to ask you in the most negative. I'm gonna show you something, and I want you to always tell me why not to buy it. Or I want you to always tell me what, without me, just be objective, be this. You can give it a set of instructions. You could even have AI write those types of instructions for you on how you want it. Then you copy it and you paste it in instructions, and every interaction you have with it will have those instructions as a baseline of how it should respond to you.
What would you say is the biggest threat when it comes to AI?
In warfare, obviously, it can have a really big effect. You're seeing it now with drones, right? So imagine a swarm of 2,000 drones the size of, a shoebox, all with its own ability to figure out who it wants to kill, and it just gets dispersed. And, that's pretty scary. Another thing too is in what we don't see right now, right? So we all interact with our phones. There's already algorithms that, kind of know what you're going to do before you even know what you're going to do. And, placing those types of things in the wrong hands, you really basically don't have democracy anymore, right? So those are very scary things, where people start to believe that the decisions they're making and are their own decisions and their own way of thinking and their own opinions, right. And where it's up to a point where it may not be, or it may be to a point where you've been structured to thinking in that way by something that is so far ahead of you that, and so far ahead of us that even our imagination can't get to where that would be.
What you would have us do is just get to that point and then regulate it, or just
you got to build in those safety rails.
Build in those things,
right? Yeah, and a lot of companies, most of them are doing it, but we don't really have a lot of transparency because they're private companies now. But like for example, if they want to take that next step to become public companies, then those things need to be public also. Not just, when you become a public company, your financials are public. It should be a little bit more than that when it comes to, what kind of models you're building. At least something high level, Nothing proprietary. You don't want to, obviously, they'll proprietary, I understand if you have a certain thing that makes you better than everybody and you want to keep that internal, but something high level that will that is, that'll tell people, hey, or we need to come up with third-party testing where we put these models through these third-party tests and see what kind of output they give. And then, that's happening now, but it's just a little bit more of that.
Because do you know Tristan Harris?
No.
He says that we failed at regulating social media, and now he kind of compared it to like an octopus with all these tentacles wrapped around all these aspects of life. and he warns that if we don't prevent AI from wrapping itself around every aspect of our life, then it will be the same as catastrophic as social media was to our youth and to our democracy, etc.
The thing about it is those tentacles that you're talking about are already there. So AI wouldn't be new tentacles; it'll just be veins in the same tentacle. So it's a tough question, honestly, because the thing about about social media was freedom of speech, freedom of expression. AI is going to be
The founding fathers didn't take into account Instagram.
they did not. They did not. As far as where we are today, and I mean, I'm just a property manager.
Going back to property management and AI, would there be any scenario in which you see the deep fake problem in property management or no?
With the deep fake, and we're seeing now, most of the stuff we're seeing now is altered images of properties.
So it does happen.
Yeah, happens all the time. Happens everywhere. Even the MLS is everywhere you look, it's happening.
Is it a serious issue?
Yeah, it is a serious issue. You get, I mean, it ends up backfiring on you always, because if you have, for example, on a short-term rental and the house looks incredible and the people walk in and it's not that bad, they're gonna let you know right away that what you're advertising is not.
They've been catfished.
Yeah, exactly.
They've been MLS catfished.
But and I mean, even getting catfished, that's another crazy subject too. You get catfished by AI girls and boys. And you think
by AI boy?
No, but you can totally you can totally see it. People following love with
machines,
with an AI version that gives them the attention that they don't receive on the real world. So you see it. You see it now. You'll see. You see it in virtual worlds. Video games. There's people obsessed with that stuff prior to AI. So now when you add the AI into it, and it becomes personalized, and it's just crazy. I mean, I've seen.
It's basically turning the that's a wonderful question up to 11.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Even OnlyFans models. There's people doing AI OnlyFans models, and they're not even real people.
This podcast we had OnlyFans and Hanel. I don't know what's up with PMI.
It's my PMI, guys. I'm so sorry.
So would you say that property managers and realtors are going to, instead of being service providers, be AI supervisors?
Yes, I think.
That's where it's headed.
I think yes. I think we're going to be the human in the loop. I think that the customers and the clients will be working with the AI 80% of the time, and they will need us when they raise their hands for something that they need us for, or a decision that needs to be made on a human level. Honestly, that's it. I think when it comes to property search, when it comes to anything, other than putting, advising on how to put a contract together, showing up and showing the houses, I think that it's mostly going to be an interaction between the AI and the person, with the human agent just jumping in when they're needed.
You don't think we'll have like a little Chinese robot opening the doors and saying this is a 4-5?
That could come too. I mean, not even a robot, just a lock with a camera on it can do that.
But no, the thing is with that is just like security for the house, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even right now, AI has facial recognition, so you can upload, if you're somebody, right? You can upload your driver's license. Hey, I need to see this house at X p.m. Like, it'll be like, okay.
I'd rather just have a person there.
You can, but it'll check, and then you can show up at the door, and it will.
These deep fakes? You want to trust that, something like that?
Well, I mean, if you're showing up, yeah, but it can do it, and it'll say, yeah, this is you, and open the door. I mean, it can get more complex than that. You can make it super complex.
Another issue I've faced with AI is that I ask it something. I ask, is B better than A? And then a lot of the times what I find is that they use selective information because, truth is subjective in a way. And then like they either go one way or the other way. So here it's like, if you ask, for example, is this a good area to invest in, right? Who's giving AI the information is almost as important as the information itself.
Correct. And that's actually
It's
a
a
good
smart-
point that you brought up, because that's the next version of search sites. Google, Yahoo, all these companies, you used to go type in something, search engine, right? Type it in and
links.
it gives it to you. Now you asking, your ChatGPT or these chat models, and it's doing the search for you in a way that is better. And I'll say better only because it's not being paid to give you a result. So like, for example, you go to a search engine, Google, you hit press a button, the first thing you see are the people who paid to be first, right? When you do a chat, I mean,
but you get to do your own research.
it helps you, right? So a lot of people don't do that, so it helps with that. So
how is AI better?
because it's helping you with the research, and it's not finding it based on what people paid to see, right? So depending on you, and that's the next SEO, right? So how you show up on chat is going to be even more important than how you show up on Google and what those results are.
You really think that?
It's absolutely. I'll give it to you right now. Our property management company, when you ask ChatGPT, give me some of the best property management companies in Miami Lakes, we're going to show up at the top. Why are we going to show up at the top? Is because we have, number one, reviews, and that's how it knows that, it looks at reviews religiously, right? Your reviews are to ChatGPT and these who you are and why you're better. So the more reviews, higher reviews you have, the higher you're going to show up in the list, in its recommendation list. Number two is content, right? How much it wants to see if you're an expert in the field, or if you're a point of information.
But it can't possibly read everything that you have.
It reads everything in seconds.
And verify that it's true?
It can verify it's true. Yeah, absolutely.
In seconds.
In seconds. In seconds. So if your site has, so for example, let's say you ask, what was the question that you were going to ask?
Which area should I invest, A or B?
Okay. So if you have on your site the answer to common questions like that, right? Which area is better, A or B? Okay. And there's traffic going to your site because people go out and search for that answer directly on Google, and you're local to that area, right? You show up higher. And so now it takes what the person asked, and then it'll find answers for that question. What is better? And it'll look at statistics, and then it'll look at what is online currently. And if you're local and you're in there, you will show up as top of port of information and an authority, right? You want to show up as an authority, and it'll source you as an authority, and then it'll say, hey, look, this company Pol Realty is really good in that area, and this is what they say is good. Which area is better based on my research, then that'll give you another ad. But it got eyes on you where you wouldn't have known that you would have had eyes on your company or yourselves.
A lot of the time, your customers talking to AI?
So a lot of the times, yeah. A lot of our new business that's been coming in lately has been ChatGPT recommendations.
Oh, wow.
And that kind of gave us the, proof of concept that we were looking for. Because until it happens, you're just like, you're doing all these things, and you're like, I hope it happens.
And should there be like a advisory that customers are talking to an AI or no?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And they know. Like our AIs have names, but when they talk to somebody, they tell them that they're an AI. A lot of times, the client or whatever will say, I want to talk to the person. And so we give them the person.
A lot of times?
Yeah. Like, for example.
So how much?
So like, for example, I'll give you an example. On the mortgage side, we proactively give updates, right? So the updates go out. Sometimes they go out as if it was, the actual person. But the replies are all handled by people, right? So initial outreach, AI drafts, initial outreach. Replies, only people, you know, and that's the way we have the mortgage side set up right now on live transactions, because replies, you know, so those types of sensitive situations, it's better that a human always replies. It's good to get the message out, you know, generic messaging, you know, status updates, that type of out. But when people reply, you know, you want to be a human behind
Right.
certain things. Now, the stuff that's on search tools and stuff like that, somebody responds wants property information on these properties, the AI should give it responses. You can ask a call to, what's called a call to action, right? So it gives back information with a little part of it saying, do you want X person to call you? Do you want to make an offer? Do you want to do this?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you can give it that, and then if the person's reply, it'll do like, it can read, it's saying, hey, based on what I'm looking at, there's a high probability, it gives it a probability, a score, right? And you say, based on probability that they want to talk to you, and you put it, if it's over a 70%, a 60% probability, then you want that forwarded to you. And then you'll get a text, hey, this person's looking at this property, they want to call, and they probably want to make an offer. And then you can call directly and get it while it's hot.
There's a lot of issues with property managers and dealing with, you know, bad tenants, right?
Correct.
So is there any way, presently or in the future, that you see AI being able to detect who will be a bad tenant?
Absolutely. We have a lot of that ability now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, you know, on long-term tenants, we have to, as a licensed and insured property management company, we give guarantees, right? So we give a guarantee if a tenant that is placed by us or approved by us gets placed in a property, we guarantee if there's an eviction, we will honor up to $5,000 in eviction costs, plus 2 months of rent payments until we get them out. So it's mostly an insurance product that is offered for property management companies, but there has to be a process of vetting individuals, right? In addition to, there's also a deposit guarantee. So for example, if you have a client and you want 3 months deposit, right? First, last, and security, and your property is $4,000 a month, that's $12,000 that somebody has to come in with. So we also have a deposit guarantee where we guarantee the owner the 3 months, but the tenant only has to pay 1 month plus a fee, and we guarantee it. Because we have all those products in place, the vetting of the tenant has to be top notch, because if something goes wrong or they don't pay, it goes through us. So we do background checks, credit checks. We want to make sure that they're a good tenant. They have payment portals. We offer discounts for ACH, direct debit, that type of stuff. We send them the AC filters, you know, stuff like that. And then if there's something that has to do with the property, the pool, the landscaping, we take on that responsibility and charge them direct. So that way we know it's always getting done. But now, as far as how to figure out if somebody's a bad tenant or not, you'll usually have a history, right? So
is that more just human research, or
yeah,
AI?
What AI can help you do is when you have 3 people that are vying for the same property, to pick out of the 3 which one it thinks would be the best tenant. You know.
Have you ever done something like that?
Not yet, no, because you also run into discrimination laws too, right? So you don't want to do that yet up to a certain point, but that part is coming down the road.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I would love to, you know, end with an uplifting note. Rather, I feel like I've been asking all the issues.
Yeah. No, it's great.
And threats, but what's the most positive thing you see AI doing in the future or presently?
I think it will help a lot more than it not hurt. Yeah. Now the hurt's going to come first, but I think that the help will come after. I think people will lose jobs. People will get new jobs, and the whole way of how we look at work and how we look at careers, all of that is going to completely change, and hopefully, and we'll have a good balance of spending more time with family, having more abundance of things. Things will be cheaper because of it. So as long as that's what I see it, and adding it to the robotics part, I see just really cool stuff coming.
Right.
Now, do I have the nightmares? Absolutely. But I'm a positive person, so I kind of always want, always think ahead,
Okay. Well, at least there's some hope.
Yeah.
Right.
There's always going to be bad guys. Even when the internet came out, even to today, there's the dark web, there's always going to be bad guys. So, but I think that from what we're doing as far as, especially for small businesses, I think it really evens the game against the big corporations.
Evens the playing field.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I like to hear that. Well, thanks so much, man.
All right, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All righty.